Hello, and welcome to Principles of Macroeconomics. This is Module 4.1b, and today we're going to start talking about money and the Federal Reserve. So what is money? We use it all the time. It's in our pockets, it's in our bank accounts, but really, what is it? Money is a set of assets that people regularly use to buy goods and services in our economy. For an asset to be considered money, it needs to satisfy three qualities. The first is that it needs to serve the purpose of a medium of exchange. In other words, people need to be able to use the asset as a way to exchange for goods and services. Secondly, it needs to be a unit of account. We should be able to use the asset or money to be able to assign a value to any good or service. In other words, if you think about anything that you buy in the store, the unit of account that we use is the number of dollars that you would need to purchase that item. And lastly, it needs to be a store of value, so that we should be able to use the asset or money to compare the value of goods or services across time. So we use money as a way to understand how much something was worth 10 years ago, how much is it worth today, and how much is it going to be worth 10 years from now. There are two types of money that have been historically used throughout the world. The first is what we call commodity money. And commodity money uses an asset that in and of itself has some type of intrinsic value. You can think of gold or silver or diamonds that are used as a medium of exchange, a store of value, and a unit of account, but in and of themselves are worth something as well. The other type of money that we are more familiar with is called fiat money. And this is money that has value because the government says it does, and we believe them. So in other words, if you think about the $5 bill that's in your pocket or in your wallet, in and of itself, the paper, the ink, is not worth $5 to make. But we believe that that is $5 and that we can buy $5 worth of goods and services with that bill. So therefore, we believe that that money has some value, and therefore it does. When we think about money, and we think about the types of money that we have in our economy, cash, it would be considered the most liquid asset. We have different types of assets that can be used as stores of value. You can think of anything as a house. Obviously, it's worth something. Your bonds, maybe some stocks, maybe a rare painting. All of them have some type of value. But money or cash is the most liquid form of an asset. What does this mean? Well, it is most readily and easily available to be used in exchange for another good or service. If you think about, for example, a house, it takes time to actually be able to sell the house so that you can take the proceeds from the house and use it to buy your good or service. Probably you wouldn't sell your house just to buy groceries each week, right? Because it takes a lot of time. So a house would be considered an illiquid asset, whereas the money that you have in your wallet or the money that you have in your checking account is a very liquid asset. In M1, this consists of all of the currency that is in circulation, so all of the actual dollar bills that are circulating in our economy, as well as the money that is in demand deposits or your checkable deposits. Just think about every time you swipe your debit card or write out a check. It's as if you're using money, right? It's a very liquid form. The second type is M2. M2 includes everything that's in M1, as well as time and savings deposits. Time and savings deposits are slightly less liquid than what we have in M1. Now, who controls the money supply? The Federal Reserve, or the central bank in an economy, is the one that determines the level of the money supply. The role of the central bank is twofold. First, it determines the quantity of money in the economy, and it does this through a variety of ways, such as open market operations, lending to banks, as well as influencing reserve ratios. And it is also tasked with overseeing and regulating the banking system. In the United States, our central bank is called the Federal Reserve, and it has 12 regional banks throughout the United States, all of which are tasked with overseeing the regional banking system. Part of the Federal Reserve is also the Federal Open Market Committee, or the FOMC, which meets regularly to determine monetary policy. Specifically, it meets to determine what the money supply should be in our economy and to determine interest rates. If you've paid attention to the news over the course of the last few years, you know that this is one of the big debates that is happening. When will the Federal Reserve increase interest rates? Well, they meet regularly, the FOMC, to determine whether or not it is time to raise the interest rates or to keep them the same. We'll see exactly what that means in a few videos when we start talking about money supply and money demand and monetary policy. So what have we learned in this segment? Well, we've learned about what is money, the forms of money, and how we specify money supply in our economy. We've also learned about the Federal Reserve and its role in determining money supply and regulating the banking system. Thanks so much for joining me. This is Module 4.1b about money supply, money, and the Federal Reserve System.